Slide in close, get in close, there you go. Okay.
Oh my God.
We've got more. Reinforcements are coming in. Okay. All right, everybody, here we go. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Thank you very much. That was great.
We're like the last 10-year
This is a baby. This is a baby.
God damn it, Bob.
More cowbell! More cowbell! We need trinkets! Love it. Trinkets! Trinkets! We need trinkets! Hang down. Yay, Hattie!
Anybody wants to speak? Anybody want to speak? Oh, thank you. We love you, Hattie. We love you, Hattie. We love you, Hattie. I want to say a word.
Go ahead.
Here, would you like to use this? I want to say a word. I just want to say a quick word. On behalf of the current pyramid staff, management, and our patrons. Here, hold on, Sarah. Let me taste this for you.
And you speak into that little place right there by the red light. Okay?
I just want to say on behalf of the current pyramid staff, management, and all of our patrons, a lot of you guys have been coming over 20, 30 years. We're celebrating 40 years this year. Hattie will be in our venue, in our hearts forever. She's definitely a part of our history, and we're forever grateful. We love Hattie. We love you, Hattie!
East 4th will make a right. East 4th will make a right. Here we go.
A little libation.
Hi, how are you? When did you get here?
I've been in the whole parade.
Oh, good. I didn't see. It was a little chaotic in the park. I didn't see you.
Yeah, it was hard to get to everybody.
In the name of the goddess, Ellen Stewart, in her house tonight, we celebrate Hattie Hathaway, BRIAN Butterick, and the many myriad tribes here together to celebrate an extraordinary life. Thank you for coming. Of course, silence all cell phones, please. Thank you. Before we start our long program of speakers, I'd like to call the person who truly tonight would not have been possible without. That might be too many double negatives, but please, I call to the stage from the Howe dynasty, Jane Friedman.
Jane is in the front.
like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, I didn't even see her. Where is she?
That is
Chat
the most
amongst yourselves.
Jane Friedman bow that I've ever heard of. One more ring of the bell.
Ted!
Okay. I'll give you Ted, the director of Hattie Hathaway.
Yeah!
What a beautiful community. I am so honored to be here. Try not to cry. So just a quick anecdote before I read my very formal remarks. Hattie, a week before she passed, brought my 7-month-old son a silver cup to the gallery. I wasn't there to receive it, but I'll tell you, my son's not the Dalai Lama when there's a plastic cup and a silver cup. He goes for the silver cup. So on behalf of Jane and our entire team at Howl Happening, I would like to welcome everyone to this wonderful celebration of Hattie Hathaway. Hattie, our beloved board member, was a source of boundless inspiration, creativity, and humor. And with this loss, Howl will never be the same. She was a voice of reason for us. Not a rationality of logic or sensibility. No. But a dissident voice of rebellion against the normative constraints that impede a life of art, music, and love. Hattie's 2017 production of Jackie Curtis's Glamour, Glory, and Gold proved to us all that she had the rare and special gift of making art and magic out of chaos. Looking on this room full of Hattie's friends, we would like to thank every one of you for being here tonight. Applause? Yeah! A special thanks goes out to all of you that contributed to make this night so special. The fabulous Mark Tambella and the team at La Mama. Chi-Chi and Johnny, of course. Lori's side. This is great. I thought this was going to be too long, but it's perfect. Aldo Hernandez. Joni Lucy. And Mark Harriman, who did all this fabric, and Joni did all the decoration. Julie Hare. Whitney Cologne. Doug Bressler. Alice O'Malley for the beautiful cutout up the front. Douglas Landau. Gail Thacker. Happy Face. Christudis Nakas. Linda Simpson for the beautiful poster up there. Tom Ferry. Pedro Rosado. Yoshiko Chuma and Bobby Miller. So let's celebrate tonight's Bacchanal as Hattie would have wanted. With joy, with irrepressible laughter, and with love.
Thank you, Ted Reederer. Thank you, Jane, wherever you are. And thank you, Joni Musi, for giving us this beautiful, beautiful space. To show you how it's done. I mean, this Victorian morning New Orleans tradition that we all love so much. Give it up for Taboo.
This next number is audience participation. Cut the tape. Cue Mr. Music. Thank you, Mr. Music. This next, when I think of Hattie, I think of her as an ensemble player. And this one involves everyone in the room. It's a simple little number. We all know the words. It goes something like this. Come on, everybody. Hattie, you're an old boy, young boy. Your eyes gonna be a big queen someday. You got makeup on your face. The big disgrace. Somebody's gonna put you back in your place. We still rock you. Everybody. We still rock you. Mic on. Hello? Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hattie's playing tricks right now.
Hello.
It only works for lesbians.
Let's go.
She paid her dues time after time. She had some patience, but she committed no crime. And bad outfits, she had a few. We considered her a challenge before all human race that she's not gonna lose. She was our champion of friends. And she kept on fighting till the end. She was our champion. She was our champion. No time for cruising, 'cause she was our champion. Thank you. And all of my weeping widows, Augusto and Gail.
And the great taboo. Done very well in perhaps 3 minutes. We have so many incredible people who are going to speak and perform tonight, and many more who wanted to do this as well that we didn't have room for. So to keep things really moving, we have one of Hattie's favorite show people, the great editrix Abby. She is our official timekeeper. She's keeping everyone to the 5-minute time limit. So, speakers and performers, since you're seated here, if you see that gorgeous creature come into your sight line, you'll know it's like the Oscars. Wrap it up. And now, one of the greatest East Village exports ever, the legendary Penny Arcade.
It was so incredible to be outside and to watch the parade arrive. Just extraordinary. And so, because I am somebody who likes to talk, I wrote it down. When I first moved back to New York City, to the East Village in 1981, after being gone for 10 years, there was a massive wave of gentrification going on. People who are much admired right now, like Jack Smith and Jackie Curtis, along with people like Peter Hujar and many once famous names that only a few people remember now, were being obscured just as they were being ripped off. So, one of the few places that the old and new came together was the Pyramid Club. Bobby really love the lineage of the old East Village. But for instance, one night after 30 or 40 minutes of him trying to find the cocaine he had offered me, and I said, you know, Bobby, I really don't need any coke. He turned to me and got really grand and said, oh, you superstars from the last generation are so prissy about drugs. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with Bobby all the time because there was someone else at the pyramid, a long, lanky boy named Brian. Back then, it seemed to be that there was a big age difference between him and I. I was 31 and Brian was 26. But Brian had a sensitivity. He was able to keep several plates spinning in the air at all times, like a Chinese acrobat. I did some of my first ever performances at his invitation, long before I was a performance artist writing my own work, when I still considered myself an experimental theater actress. In 1990, I wrote my sex and censorship show, Bitch, Dyke, Fag, Hag, Whore. And in the recounting of my own history in the gay world, I said, in the late 70s, people started coming out of the closet and immediately formed committees to tell the rest of us what we could say and what we could do. People who had dragged their feet coming out of the closet had meetings where they decided that they could tell the rest of us who had never been in the closet what we could say. They said we couldn't use the word dyke, we couldn't use the word fag, we couldn't use the word queer. They were against drag. They said that drag disrespected women. They hated heterosexuals. They wanted them banned from the gay state. I hated these motherfuckers. I wanted them to go back into the closet. They took over gay pride and I called for return to gay shame. But then in 1981, I started meeting these new gay boys. They were half in drag. They were amazing. They knew the whole history that had come before them. They were friends with everybody. They were friends with heterosexuals and bisexuals. They were friends with lesbians. They weren't defining people by their sexual orientation. They knew the whole lineage that had come before them. They knew the names of all the drag queens that had come before them. Jackie Curtis, Candy Darling, Holly Woodlawn, Alexis Del Lago, Marsha P. Johnson. I love these guys. They felt like they were my lineage from my generation that had come before. I have said that monologue over 1,000 times. For 27 years, I have said that monologue in 40 cities around the world and well over 1,000 times. And every single time I say that monologue, when I say, and there were these new gay boys, they were half in drag, the face I have always seen is BRIAN Butterick's face. I'm sure that I told him this in 1990 or 1995 or in 2000, but I didn't tell him in 2018 or 2019. Brian represented somebody very important for me because he was one of the few people who I could speak freely to, knowing I wouldn't be judged, which is a really big deal. And I miss him so much. I am, like everyone, heart-torn, and his energy, his leadership will persist in every one of you, in everyone who knew him. And I think that that is the greatest honor that we can bestow on Brian, is to recognize how he grew in wisdom and to emulate that wisdom, that inclusion, that bravery. Thank you.
Hattie had more than 1,000 faces, and we're going to talk about those later. I just wanted to dedicate my outfit tonight. It was one of his favorites when I was Mary Miles Minter for Night of 1,000 Stevie's 27 Garbo. This is for you, Hattie. Because Hattie loved so many generations of Hollywood stars, but there's nothing like the ones from the teens, as many of us know. Next, to read from a book that he wrote with Hattie about the Pyramid Club, the great playwright, author, performer, director, and so much more, Kęstutis Nakas.
Hi, everybody. Hey. Is the mic on? Yeah. Hello. Oh. Hello. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Brian getting his memories of the Pyramid, which he dearly loved, as he loved every place he worked. I think when he started at the Pyramid Club, from then on, he never had a job that he didn't absolutely love. And he only took on these gigs where he really identified with what people were doing. So here are his words from about 10 years ago. All the rest of this is Brian's. I actually did drag for the first time at the Pyramid. It was sort of a revolutionary thing. I didn't have the size 13 pumps. I had combat boots. Then, when I became Loretta, I had cowboy boots for the country western thing, and I didn't shave. You were always told never to pull off your wig in public and always to wear earrings, and I did all of those wrong. My drag persona, Hattie Hathaway, was a distillation of every great eccentric I've known. People are still confused by Hattie's persona because on the web I'm constantly referred to as being transgender, which I love, but which I'm not. The Pyramid was a gathering point for misfits, freaks, and those who wanted to push the boundaries. And where better than on the edge of the crater of devastation, which was the East Village. People came together and found out they had a similar discourse, whether they were from Omaha, Montreal, Johannesburg, London, or the South Bronx. Their interaction with society was similar. The only way they knew how to communicate about all this was through what they knew, the arts, media, theater, writing, painting, and gender expression through new kinds of drag. The new kind of drag wasn't necessarily pretty. It often had great humor poking at the established notions of drag and of femininity and masculinity. It wasn't necessarily concealment or female impersonation. A pervasive sense of acceptance morphed into a populist ethic of inclusion. Anyone could be an artist. Anyone could perform at the Pyramid if they had an idea and wanted to do the work. And sometimes it wasn't even all that much work. The Pyramid became an oasis for the disenfranchised artists and outcasts of New York. After all, where could an Edgar Oliver have gone if not for the Pyramid? That spirit of generosity also spills over from gay culture. In gay life, there is always some older queen helping the younger one. It is a current that runs through gay history because there are no actual parental support mechanisms, and so one has to look to someone else to be a mentor. Even today, for every parent that supports their kid, there are far more that don't. So change is slow in coming. But it wasn't just the young gays who found support at the Pyramid. Many straights found comfort at the Pyramid oasis as well, partly at least because they were perceived as being askew or offbeat and also rejected by the mainstream culture. At the Pyramid, you could see skinheads and rock and rollers talking with 30-something queens with marcelled hair and fishnets with unshaded legs. Pyramid was the trumpet blast of the sexual revolution that closed out the 20th century. It opened the door to the transgendered revolution. Ideas erupted in chain reactions, with staff bouncing off the ideas of all the people that came in. The physical interaction was remarkable, especially now where we tend toward the virtual. There is no room for accidental exchanges or encounters. The pyramid was a living, non-virtual Facebook. And you didn't have to climb the ladder to start it or show business. You could start living theater, playing roles and inventing multiple personalities. We were always laughing. Humor was essential. When art was taken seriously, it became Soho. We thought good art was funny. We had that gender-fuck perspective, and although we didn't have beards, we liked the idea of a guy in a dress. We wanted to wreck people's perception of gender. At first, we annoyed people, but then they grew to like it. Thank you, Hattie. You are alive among us today. And as you once said, because I know you're in the room, people will always say that it's the end. It's never the end. Time is a river, it just keeps flowing.
Well, you always know the director. That was 4 minutes and 57. You got it. Thank you so much. Katsudas Nakas.
Beach's Guide to the Lower East Side at the Howell Festival. I was the first bitch. No, I'm good. I think that I made about negative $230 for Howell. And I think with Hattie, I don't know if it was just bone structure. Gore Vidal says often you either hate or love people on site, and Americans don't like to admit that. But fucking second I saw Hattie, BRIAN Butterick, I just loved him so much. It could be that if they're fabulous for a certain period of time, this kind of thing like becomes your mantle, or this kind of glow descends on you. And Hattie was visual, or is visual, but there's a level of like people who are, I call them completely visual people, who are having some kind of dialogue with each other. And I'm like a truck driver compared to them. And Hattie certainly dwelled among the completely visual people, but he was so fucking human, and he was a word person. I read this thing in some mimeograph zine, and Hattie had been raised in the Bronx by, maybe Chi can correct me on this, either a very fabulous grandmother or aunt. Anyway, you could just see this, you know, some women just have that, they're just queen bees, and they're cool as hell. And I'm like, it made sense to me. I'm like, oh, Hattie was raised by this cool as hell grandmother in the Bronx who kind of could take in, you know, Hattie's mind and feed it. And, oh, God, I guess he let me do Smugfest and Mother, be poet laureate, lose some money for Howell. And within the last couple of years, Hattie went to, what's that bar, Queen Vic's? Yeah. Right. And I was so fucking happy, like I was just there for whatever, you know. And Hattie was there, and I'm like, I was just, at the time she was waiting for her NYU dentures. And, you know, as a now 57-year-old trendy person, I'm like, well, that'll be me in a couple of years, because, you know, NYU doesn't work fast. And you want to go out. And I was so happy to see her, and I saw her there a couple more times, and I said, well, you know, Hattie, I guess I'm a party animal. And she said, yeah, of course. Of course you are, Jennifer. And she didn't have that idea, like, then you got successful and became some kind of lamestream person. And I think she was kind of escort to maybe like heiresses that couldn't interface well one-on-one with people. Some kind of thing like that. I think Hattie knew some very wealthy people, which I was not party to, although I certainly had an appetizer or two on them. But that's an art, you know, like maybe people that felt so fragile in their way and they had their driver, sure, but otherwise they weren't that connected to people, but Hattie was kind of like the human conductivity wire. I'm just guessing, but I imagine this. And God, I love her to death. God damn, one night I got to sleep on the same futon in San Francisco. Hattie was hanging out with this blonde woman who dealt pot, who was from the East Coast, and I was in the next kind of futon on the floor. And I don't know why the hell we were all there, but I mean, I think we know why the hell we're all here. Thank you, good night!
Oh, the Queen Vic. And I just wanted to say thank you for the hundreds of tributes from every corner of the club world that have come in to all of our inboxes from every kind of club, from meme establishments to tap dancing clubs to vampire clubs and so many of the great nights that Hattie was involved with. So thank you, and all of you that are here that paraded with us, thank you. To close out part one, they need no introduction and therefore have asked to only be introduced as Julie and Doug. Mary Miles, reporting for duty. Just other random wonderful thoughts about Hattie that I've had in the past 2 months since we lost him. Just random things, but Hattie didn't just rescue cats like a lot of people that we know and love. Hattie rescued senior cats. And that takes a really special person. And I'll give you to another one or two, Julie and Doug.
When you into your eyes shone gray in my face. I held your hand as an entity took your place. I lost you. I lost everything. I lost you. I lost everything. We lost you. We lost everything. We lost you. We lost everything.
Rick Aller and
And
Dan
Brian
Lyon.
used to book that band at the pyramid. And they're good friends of ours. And Brian's. And this is our last little jam that we had with Brian. And this is what came out. And so it's not anything but that.
As things grow to each a smaller part,
How best to show the love in our heart.
light falls off by the square of the distance between us.
What do we care if no one can see us
In the dark of space, in the dark, at your place, I reach for you as we lie, moving closer on our sides, whispers and butterfly kisses. Thank you. Thank you.
Wireless, beautiful. Thank you, Doug and Julie, and remembering the great 3 teams kill 4. We're going to take a 15-minute break with some incredible slides curated by, and music curated by Aldo Hernandez. See you in 15. The legendary Jackie MCs, Paul Alexander.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Opal Tuesday, and I worked with Hattie for many years at the Club Jackie 60. We also work together in the high happening events, and we laugh a lot. Anyway, to move things on, I'd like to bring to the stage Black Lips and Wigstock star and frequent Hattie co-conspirator. Please, put it together for Floyd.
Oh, this train is not an express. It makes many stops. Hi, my name is Floyd and I'm an alcoholic. You know, when I first thought about the Hattie having a memorial, the first thing that came into my head was Hattie saying to me, I love that poem you wrote about life. I love that poem you wrote about life. And you know, this has been in this planning for a little while, and I've been coming and going. Do I go? Do I not go? Do I do drag? Do I not drag? Do I do a number? Do I not do a number? I don't even want to go. I don't want to be there. What am I going to do? So today, when I was figuring it out, I was walking down the street leaving therapy. And yes, I'm getting better. What about you? So I was leaving therapy, and this is a true story. And I'm walking down the street, and I'm thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And I think, well, fuck it. I'm just going to ad-lib. I'm going to play it by ear. I'm going to do whatever happens. And right that minute, I felt Hattie's hand on my shoulder going, yes, girl, yes. And I looked over, pigeon shit. The very first time I came to New York was with the Now Explosion, and Hattie lived. You liked it? And Hattie lived on the Bowery, I think with Needles Jones, right? In that crazy loft, which I never got to go in, even though I was supposed to stay there. So me and my friend Lori were supposed to stay there with Hattie that night. And the Now Explosion was so excited to get to do heroin with Hattie. Oh, did he say heroin? No one else has yet. But, so we went, me and my friend Lori Nevada, we took mescaline and walked to Central Park and took off all of our clothes. But when we came back, on the way back we passed this refrigerator box. Sidebar. So when we get to the door, they're all so fucked up that they don't answer. We ring and we ring and we ring, and we're like, what the fuck? Like, it's snowing, it's winter, and I said to my friend Lori, well, let's go get that refrigerator box. That's what people do in New York. And we slept in a refrigerator box. Thank you, Hattie. I'm probably fucking with my time. But when I came back to New York... You are. Keep going. Yeah, we like it. Let's read that poem. I was just going to say, on more than one occasion, Hattie helped me find a place to live. Not a drink ticket, bitch, a place to live, okay? Seriously, a place to live. Okay, it's funny because Hattie was saying to me in my head, read that poem about life. It's actually about death. It's called Life is Cheap. In fact, it's free. All things die, this we know. We only guess to where they go. We say goodbye and blow a kiss, and all our lives succumb to this. We wither away or die in our sleep. Life is rich, but death is cheap. In fact, it's free, as we all know. We only guess to where we go. Life is strong and life is wild. We all are born our mother's child. We play the game and break the rules, and in my game, I play the fool. I've made you laugh, now watch me cry. For all of us are going to die. But I have overcome my fear. I will waste no time while I am here. I love the lights. I love the show. And I am not afraid to go. It's just a phase, this life we live. We all have got so much to give. So sing the song that makes you smile. Smoke the camel, walk the mile. Live the way you want the most, your Father, Mother, Holy Host. For in this vast rainbow cascade, each hears his own private serenade. And when it all is said and done, you're peaceful, sleeping, silent one. No chores to do, no time to beat. Your pains are over, nice and neat. Everything dies, this we all know. We only guess to where we go. Where we go, where we go. We only guess to where we go. Hattie always said this is a one-cow town, and I'm that cow. Well, the cow is dead. Long live the cow.
Brava, Lloyd. We're here and standing by. We next welcome a pioneering digital artist and animator who documented the Pyramid Club in its 1980s golden era. Longtime friend of Hattie's, Marhan Mogadin.
Hi. Actually, my name is Marjan. That's what I like. Wow, you know, what an amazing turnout. I mean, I literally had tears in my eyes as I was sitting there because I was thinking, Brian, Hattie would have loved this so much. And thank you, all of you, for showing up and celebrating Hattie. I know she is here with us somehow. And the next thought that I had is, leave it to Hattie to disrupt traffic in the gentrified East Village of the 21st century. Beautiful rainbow procession that is a perfect snapshot of the 1980s. I mean, who else would do that except for Hattie? I was actually Brian's upstairs neighbor for 17 years in the notorious 501 Canal Street building. And I'm sure many of you attended parties at that building because we didn't just live there, but you know, the building was a party building. And, you know, I remember 10 years ago, Hattie asked me to show all the videos that I shot between 1984 and 1988 for Howl Festival. And I quickly edited the video that some of you may have seen on YouTube, Drag Queens, Skinheads, Artists, and Some Girls, the Pyramid Club of the 1980s. That, in a nutshell, was the pyramid. The pyramid brought together all the different tribes of New York City. At no other point since then have I ever seen all the different tribes coming together the way they did at the pyramid. And there's a reason for that. I always said the early pyramid was a result of the triple goddess of Bobby Bradley, Alan Mace, and Brian Butterick. But to me, the aspect, in addition to other goddesses and gods, so let's mention them too. But to me, the aspect of the pyramid that was all about everybody was really Hattie. That was Hattie's personality. When I met Brian, he was a punk guy in the East Village with a leather jacket who played in a band. And occasionally he'd wear a skirt, and he wouldn't shave. And I was his upstairs neighbor, and I would tell him, Brian, don't you want to shave? And he was like, no. I'm like, don't you? I mean, he had no desire to shave, but he would always borrow my makeup. But the other part of Brian was like, you know, I could sit down and talk to Brian about Jean Cocteau and William Burroughs and Shakespeare and the great philosophers. philosophers. He was an avid reader, and he truly loved performance, art, music. You know, we had hardcore bands at the Pyramid because Brian loved hardcore. We also had opera because he loved opera, period, and everything else in between. But the most important thing about Hattie that I remember is, you know, sometimes like around 3:30 in the morning at the Pyramid when everybody was trying to figure out who were the right people they wanted to tag along with to go out partying, Brian would be putting together the crew that was going to come to Canal Street at 4:30. And it would be like Hollywood celebrities, and then there would be like these 3 people from Berlin that have nowhere to sleep. They're coming over and they would end up living with us for 2 months. And then Brian would grab, how many of you remember him? Attila, the Turkish cab driver, who was this like 50-year-old guy who would just literally tag along with us. And that was Hattie. That was Hattie. It was everybody. It was never the velvet robe attitude at the other clubs. It was never the, oh, you had to be someone special for him to listen to you, to care about you, and to want to help you. Hattie was there for everybody, and that was really his legacy. You know, in addition to being an artist and an animator, my day job is a college professor. And yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'm not bringing it up. No, I'm just bringing it up because my day job is I hang out with 20-something-year-olds. And the amazing part of the legacy of the Pyramid in the 80s, that special moment that we have is this generation today. Because their inclusiveness and collectivism can literally be traced back to that moment in the 1980s. When all the different tribes came together in terms of the Pyramid. I look at my students, and if somebody's struggling, they're all there helping. That was Hattie. You know, they don't look at each other as straight or gay or this or that. They're like almost every gender there is, and they're even inventing their own gender. And when you think about it, I mean, we don't, you know, they say history is made 50 years into the future, but, you know, we might not really realize how significant that moment was. And if we look at this world today, and this generation today, and the way everything's going to change in this century, a lot of it can be traced back to, yes, the Pyramid in the 1980s and Hattie's legacy.
Marhan. Okay. I'm going to take this one slowly because it's lots of names and lots of history. Peter Kramer and Jack Waters were members of Pool, the resident dance company of the Pyramid. Now, of course, the Pyramid had a resident dance company. I did not know that. They brought along all of the tech from then and some from now because they're being joined by other members of the fabulous ambient kitchen band NYOBS. Nyobs. Okay. Love that. Nyobs. Okay. And are you good now? Okay. Lori will cue me, so I'm going to keep on going here for a moment because there's more about this ensemble that you're about to see. They opened for 3 Teens Kill 4 at a very important show of theirs, at which time Hattie said, you should always open for 3 Teens Kill 4. So you know this is a serious thing we're about to see.
Yeah, I think we're good. We're going to make a little noise.
Along with John Schwartz and Mike Cacciatore, they are Peter Kramer, Jack Waters, John Schwartz, Mike Cacciatore, Nyobs.
Timer going. We got all these little doodads here, modern technologies. Alright, are you ready? Take a deep breath. Let's everyone take a deep breath.
Excuse me, we finally made it downtown. Can someone tell me where the East Village is?
You're in the East Village.
Oh, goodness, I've been walking around this park for hours and hours. Tompkins Square Park, I think they call it. They said Woodstock was supposed to be happening, but I can't see anybody. And they said there would be drag queens and performers and all kinds of things. But where's the actual pyramid? And how do I get to the pyramid?
Practice.
Oh my God. What shtick never died, never dies. So, it will never die. What's going on? Look who's here at the pyramid tonight. Oh my God. There's Hattie behind the bar, Susan and Ellen, and well, who else is here? Oh, there's David Crocker and Betty Benoit and Biff and Gordon, and there's Aunt Craig. She's getting ready to MC. Bradley, Bobby's around here somewhere, skulking. Philly, Black Lips, I know is going to do something. Let's see, Mr. Fashion is always looking on point. And there's Gusto and Linda Simpson and Taboo and Hobby Face and Sister Dimensioning. Look, even Guy Marunas is here. John Jesuit's going to do some sort of chant in a void moon, I believe. And then there's Kembra. Look, there's Kembra and Samoa. And then there's Krista and there's Pool. And oh, it just goes on and 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 on. We must say goodbye. We've lost our dear old Hattie.
Jack and Peter, he's a real East Village performance from the 80s. I don't know if you didn't get it, but that's what it was like in the 80s when we went to the theater. Well, Hattie was a woman of at least 1,000 faces, costumes, and looks. So many of those were created in collaboration with makeup artist and hairdresser Torrin. Well, Torrin is here to share his unique perspective. Please welcome Torrin.
Can this go a little faster, Hans? It doesn't have to be perfect. It's dark lighting. I put on the lipstick last. I gotta smoke another cigarette. That was working with Hattie all the time. Dark lighting. Keep it moving. Let's get the character in. So Hattie loved showtime. On, but hated the process of getting done up. Hated the pins, sitting there with the cigarette, almost burning so many wigs. It could be for Hal, Low Life, whoever it was, just, we got it down to half an hour and that's pretty much it. It was like, the cigarette had 55 cigarettes, like, Hattie, please. It's like, stop, you know? So, we had Beehives, Hillary Clinton, Mrs. Lovett. But he always wanted to have that character in there, but he needed to have it because he's bartending, or here's some of you. You gotta take care of the dressing room. So every time I would fuss over a look, it's gotta be perfect. Gotta be perfect, Hattie. He'd be like, stop! The last Hal thing I did with him was with Happy Face, and he literally said, make my hair a tumbleweed. And I'm like, but it's for Hal, and it's for artsy people, and they're fancy, and they have their little outfits on. No, and I made him a tumbleweed. That was it. It was like, that was it. It was happy. So, besides all of that, and all the artsy-fartsy stuff, and the weirdness, and the kookiness, did you know that Hattie made it to Broadway? He made it to 3 Penny Opera in 2006. I'm the one that shot his headshot picture for that. And going over all of that for Playbill, he picked the gayest picture of all. It wasn't like this, he didn't want a smoldering actor look or anything. He wanted something that was like out there and the gayest thing there. So we ended up calling that his Charles Nelson Riley picture. But besides being a great collaborator, he was a really fantastic friend. We were an unlikely duo. He's 6'4", and I'm short and squat, you know, but we were always getting our ears pierced, we're getting stuff for wig stock, all kinds of fun stuff, wandering through Atlantic City while he's smoking and burning. He's gonna burn the boardwalk down, stop putting cigarettes out on wood. All the time I get a call, turning you around tonight, I'm coming home from work. We're at 2 in the morning, let's go eat at the Waverly. All kinds of fun, crazy stuff. We went to Broadway, we went to House of Yes, even to the vast parts of the East Village, like Joe's Pub or Pangea. And every single time I'd ask, what am I going to wear? It doesn't matter, it's dark lighting. What are you going to do? And it's been a little rough for me in the past 2 weeks, even tonight, because I'm drawn to text Hattie. When are you going to meet up? What are you going to wear to the parade? Oh. What are you going to say at the moment? Oh. So it's a little rough still, but the beautiful thing is, Hattie's still here with all of us, which is the whole point. Another one of the times is you're either on the hunt for really great Wellfields at the plaza, or dishing about you, late night at the Waverly or Manitous. He spilled all the tea. I'm not telling any tonight, but maybe there'll be a book. So in November, he asked me in a very we need to talk. In the 35 years I knew Hattie, I never got that tone from him, whether it was craziness or just, we need to talk. I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do now? Well, over a bowl of matzo ball soup, he told me he had cancer. It's like, oh, okay, how do we process this? Told me about the treatment and this and that. And I think it was fitting, given our long food history, that he said goodbye to me over a bowl of matzo ball soup and a corned beef sandwich. So, the other thing is, in retrospect, I realized that Hattie was beyond just one thing. He was like many muses melded together. I can sort of see him now in some celestial place, hanging out, cigarette in hand, hanging out with Aretha, Carol Channing, Betty Davis, Bacall, taking down all the no smoking signs at all the little celestial rest stops. Crazy. So, what you may not know is that I have two mentors, Hattie and Willie Ninja. I happen to be a really lucky guy with that. So, yeah, I learned from the best. So, the strange thing is that you might see they might be different, but they're actually exactly the same. They cared about everybody. They included everybody, whether it was race, creed, color, money, it meant absolutely nothing to them. If you can give, you, they saw it in you, they brought it out, and they allowed you to fly. And that's really what it was about. Everybody has a value. And it's not about the fame or the money, it's about the people, meaning you, the art, and the love that we have for it. Rest in power, Hattie. I love you.
I knew you'd love those stories from Turin. And the other great diva that Turin also spent a lot of time with was Celia Cruz. I think that's a great combination. And now someone who isn't from Queens. She's from normal parents, the great Hattie Hathaway.
Hattie was a really fun person to go out and eat with. I love going out. Even Hattie, sometimes she didn't have teeth. I could relate. And we would just, and I would just say, she's happy. I say, Hattie, soup is good food. And we would go out and have soup. We had this personal joke between the two of us. Last time I saw Hattie, it sounds like a song. I saw Hattie. I was her place on, I can't remember the name of the street, losing my memory. It wasn't 501 Canal Street, which many a cab driver, I'd get in the cab and say, 501 Canal Street, they would just turn around and give a big smile. I know it. I think I had that cab driver a few times. It's always fun when the cab driver gets out of the cab and comes up. Party with you, and everyone knows it. Hattie, I'm an old, actually, I went over 5 minutes. This is what I was going to say, I have notes on my phone. But I also want to just give a shout out to Hattie, because Hattie, also, I'm an old, before I was a performer, I was a macrobiotic chef at Angelica's Kitchen on St. Mark's Place, which was my cheese. And I would come in, start cooking, because it was a small place. It wasn't time, it wasn't room for everyone to cook there all day, so we did the specials and the desserts and all this stuff. And then I would finish up work about, let me go back a little. I get a little flustered. I'm sexy now. No, so here's the thing. you know, it was kind of a habitable, no, Hattie was a restaurant worker. Hattie had a restaurant. Hattie worked at a, what's that diner Hattie worked at?
Managers.
Oh, well, we ate managers. No, what was it, on the west side? Empire Diner.
Yes.
So we all, as performers or you know, musicians or artists, all love Hattie, but so did every guy who came to clean the pipes at the pyramid of the taps. All the beer guys, all the guys who came, the workers, you know, it was all, they all knew Hattie, you know, maybe Brian, maybe Loretta, you know, I met Hattie, or started working with Hattie. I met the Hattie who was the punk who I thought, wow, I could do that. It was so easy, actually, you know, it took me years to get there. But, you know, the thing was is that he let me do it, you know, and be there on stage with him. That's just so amazing. You know, that people call me Hattie all the time. More so now since Hattie's gone, because she's on people's mind. And you know what? Hattie, doe-eyed Hattie, all around us. Hattie, it's an honor when people call me by your name. I love it. I love that people think I'm like this melted, you know, comedy duo. I don't want to know Hattie, and sit down with Hattie, I can talk to Hattie about the history of vaudeville, and she knew that too. Besides all the other, philosophers, she knew her hagiography like nobody's business. Hattie would say, Veronica. Oh, what about St. Blaise? She knew all these obscure saints, you know. But she also knew botany. She took me to a botanical place in the Bronx where she grew up. And she knew. Amazing. But I love. I'm going to probably wrap up. I'm not making sense. I know. 5 more seconds. Microfiche. Hattie loved words, and particular words, and anytime we sit together on the computer in my tiny little bedsit apartment on the 880 300 baud modem, Chi-Chi, and I would write BBS, and I would write...
For performers in this set, we'll then have a very short break and the last 5, and these things are unmissable, so stick around. But first, I leaned over, worked with Hattie on shows including the Reading for Filth series and Glamour, Glory, and Gold at Howell, and considered her a mentor, friend, sister, and muse. I leaned over.
Hello. Beautiful. Thank you. So I just want to say, Hattie was really good at bringing people together. My friend Suze GX, who designs clothing, she found out that this was tonight and thought she had more time, so she sewed this overnight. This was a picture that she saw of Hattie online, and this type of an outfit, and she overnighted it. That's the spirit that Hattie put out in people, was to bring people together. They would just do anything. I mean, I would do anything for Hattie. She's amazing. So I miss her so much. I wrote a poem, and let's see how it goes. All right. At first I stood watching from the cheap seats. Then I realized they were all cheap seats. You schooled me on that rather quickly. You schooled me on so much. Can't do it with this. Okay. Hookers, thieves, dealers in dope. Acting, writing, creating with hope. You said, girl, it's gonna take more than makeup and nerve to survive in these times. Both of us, unaware of more bullshit to come, thank God. You told me it wouldn't be easy. You weren't kidding. As we watched them all like dominoes, drugs, AIDS, and suicide. But then I didn't think about having to do any of this. without my heroes, sisters, and mentors like you. One of my heroes, one of my sisters, and one of my many mentors, the not-so-silent artists in Queens who never got the proper amount of anything. But you understood that life wasn't fair. You guided us all and didn't care. Girl, not him. Girl, not her. Girl, she'll rob you blind. Girl, can I please focus on my career, please? As she rolls her eyes and looks down with sympathy. Okay, hey, what do you got? Let's give it a go. Girl, write everything down. We won't be here forever. Girl, I'm so glad everyone is doing a memoir. Everyone. Eyes rolling on overload, saying more than most could say with a full-length script. I somehow thought, like a camp movie digitized, you'd go on and on forever, saying, girl, what did I tell you? Write things down. Not him, not her. Girl, be careful. Oh, who cares? Can I get a light? If there is a God, Hattie dear, I'm sure you're up there questioning his plan and saying loudly to God himself while rolling your eyes, girl. You were never afraid of someone with status or fame. You treated everyone the same. I hope I can roll my eyes here on earth with the power, potency you possessed, but I'll never roll them with as much expression, exasperation, emphasis, or empathy as Hattie. Masterful deadpan, unparalleled and unmatched. Oh Hattie, the world demanded so much, but you asked for so little in return for what you gave. So many wanted and wished for your vision, so many small successes, often hard won, watching as other names showed up in lights, some lifted by your genius. Others just inspired, and of course, page 6 when you die. Of course, page 6 when you die.
Yeah, this is true.
You gave me advice and the occasional ear to bend when my creative juices were brewing. You gave me a home when I was a child in the 90s with Chi-Chi and Johnny and the Jackie 60 crew.
Yeah!
I don't recall much of that. Of course you didn't either, but you reminded me of what you did and I figured out, we put it together. You gave us so much and so many of us know how truly irreplaceable you are. You slipped away in the night with no complaints and left so much undone. The only way future generations and even those around us now will be touched by your amazing work, your amazing sensibility of art for the sake of beauty, fun, and activism, free from expectations of commercial and financial gain, is if we continue to foster a community of creativity as you did. Yeah. Creating bridges to each other as you did. It is your unfinished work that now lingers. It is now our responsibility to continue your legacy of work as it hopefully becomes the written and spoken word of future performance, art, and the voice of a stifled generation that carried the lion's share of the weight that bore the victories we've won, and will hopefully continue to win, to progress because of pioneers like you. Hattie, Miss Hathaway, Hatches, Brian, we honor you not only today, but every time some queen rolls her eyes and sighs and says, girl.
Thank you, I leaned over. I also want to make a comment about Happy Face. Because, Happy Face and Hattie at the Pyramid at Whispers was the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life. And I was just so happy that I got to be happy at Jackie 60 working with Hattie, because we were really funny together. Hattie and I. In my own opinion. Anyway, I want to shout out all the Jackie legends and all the Jackie superstars. Johanna Constantine's in the house. Connie Grover's in the house. All right, we have a Jackie 60 Method Go-Go star and Black Lips Performance Cult founding member. Here to remember one of Hattie's favorite Black Lips numbers. Please, put your hands together for Poison Eve. Thank you, Empress. As Jessica Rabbit Domination, member of the legendary House of Domination since her teenage years, Heather Letier grew up at Jackie 60, performing in countless themes, shows, and projects with Hattie. Please welcome her to the stage, Heather Letier.
Hello, everyone. I'm feeling, as tough as a rabbit is, I'm feeling quite fragile today, and I just want to send love out to all of you for being here, for Hattie, and thank Chichi Valente, the Jackie Factory, Jane Friedman, and everybody at Hell Arts, La Mama, and Mia Yu. A lot of gratitude to you for helping all of this happen. All of these places have been pivotal to me, and me being able to stay here in New York as an artist and a human being. And now, for Hattie, we are here today in the Holy Communion of Hattie to break bread with you. Am I really going to serve bread? No, I'm not going to serve bread because we know what rats are like here in New York City in theaters, right? But this is an old theatrical trick of Hattie's. Please so we can have this. Keep it on the stairs as well. Do you want to drink it? Have beer. But while our lines hon, Hattie said to me, we did Jackie the Ripper Christmas at the Slipper Room about 20 years ago. I was nervous about doing Mary Kelly, and Hattie wrote all of her lines on the back of a piece of bread. So, before Hattie turns it, I'm going to do this for Hattie. My dearest Hattie, Hatches, Miss Hathaway, Hattie Hathaway, Brian, and even Five-Finger Hattie. That's what we called you when you tended bar in full Hathaway drag in the brown couch room at Jackie 60, the red light, gaslight meatpacking district for the strength in which you would fill our cups. Oh, doth they runneth over. And over to Florent for some more special coffee. Our pre-show coffee at Dizzy Izzy's. You were my friend, musician. You could play everything. My playmate, my teacher, restaurant owner at Hattie's. Who went to Hattie's restaurant? Yes. And the frozen Cosmo machine collaborators and masters as we went to wholesale liquor to get liquor every weekend for Hattie's. I had jobs everywhere Hattie was. He always gave me a job. We were midnight ramblers. You knew everything about everything. You taught me so much. We picked up each other literally and figuratively. If I could have your feet on the ground with me for one more night, you're like the stealth oak tree, tall and wise, and you've given me roots in which to grow. Music, the musicality of forests, and I soaked up your vast knowledge like warm rain. I have been on total recall, and my mind is rushing with images of you, searching through old photos and flyers of almost 3 decades. How we had a seance for international crisis for your birthday. I tried. I wasn't prepared for this happening so fast. Our last text and talks of going to Mardi Gras down under. Our last night out on the town. Halloween at Queen Vic. We cheered along the young drag kids on the floor and knocked down a few vodkas and bellied up and belly lapped. Your nurturing friendship and confidence that I was enough and that anything goes. You always showed up. You're so kind with so many people. Kindness just surrounded your whole body. Giving so many kids a break and underdogs chances to shine. You even let me work at Rapture, and I didn't even know how to make a latte. You'll figure it out, hon. You were a great listener. The show and the biz, on and off the stage. I look to the left in the wings, and to the right in the wings, and in the front. And you're not here today. But your wings, Angel Hattie, your tall wingspan, I know, will always God, it got cut off. Carry us along. Your footprints, whether in a high heel or a combat boot, here in this community in the Lower East Side and all of New York City, your footprints run deep and have made a powerful impact. The secrets of the Great Pyramid, and you, the Great Sphinx, watching over us, your wit and quick delivery and no bull attitude. Today, I hear you laugh with me, with its smoky, dry vibrato. The way you said, "Rabbit! Rabbit! Ah! Rabbit!" But mostly the way that you called me your daughter. You're my family. You're my friend. You're my father. Your laugh and spirit are with me forever, sailing through all of our phases of life. I will see you, and we will sing whispering songs on and off key. Depends on who tunes the piano, grinds the organ, or bends the strings. Always a natural in your very own key. From light to dark, to dance and sing. From disco inferno, dance floor to dance hall. Let's have a drink and charm them all. I love you forever, Hattie. Love your daughter, Rabbit.
Anyway, I done had it for 3 years. Another time I met him, I met his church. I had 2 old bags, man. Anyway, I met each other in Jim's ago, in the 70s. I went to New York and was doing drag with him. And back then, drag was world courts and everything like that. And we weren't like that. We were steps and coming. We were really sons. We were loved women. We respected women. We admired women. Our drag was about that. We were into angry women. I like angry women. The more pissed off they were, I loved it. And we did not use the word fish. Only for the tuna. I hate it. And I guess it was bad days. We didn't understand, and we hated when guys listened to God. But I understand that stage with God. But we knew her kind of, so no reason not like her. I agree. We made her out of recent time. Oh yeah. Hattie was going to come out and visit me in March. I had DVR'd all these guys coming in now. We were into those kind of shows. We were to play together about 807 called My Camp. We liked the time 807. And I used to do his body and shit and mothers. And I really wanted to see what to do on a show called Joe, the musical. Because my life was very Joe book. And I had subways and beat on it. And I had lots of files and simulation. And was playing that, I came right out with Hattie. I cannot believe it. Oh, it's pretty good. I'm gonna have a cookie pyramid.
Love you,
Jones. Thank you so much.
next speaker is a model and animal rights activist who is a beloved audience member of many of intersecting performance worlds that Hattie traveled in. From Night of a Thousand Stevies to Owl Happening. Please welcome Wendy Kaplan.
Shake these tambourines for Hattie. Tambourine, shake them for Hattie.
Thank you so much, Laura. You're a lifesaver. So, I have to tell you something. I have to correct something I'm hearing here tonight. Hattie is not from the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. Hattie is from Riverdale. The Bronx are very different places. Now, how do I know this? This is true because I first met Hattie when I was 16 years old. And BRIAN ButTERICK was tall, handsome, and hung out with all the very, very cool boys, and went to the Bronx High School of Science. At that time, I was Wendy Fleischman. I was short, heavy, and not very cool. And I just totally idolized him. Let's fast forward to 30 years later. I'm at Night of a Thousand Stevies, one of my first times there, and I'm standing at the foot of the stage, and there's somebody flinging tambourines, and I'm like, this guy looks really familiar. But you know, like Hattie and Drag and Hattie out of, well, you know, Hattie and Drag and Hattie out of Drag are not that different, actually. And I was standing there, and that freaking tambourine missed my eye, like the corner of my eye by a quarter of an inch. But I'm thinking, he looks really familiar. I didn't think anything more about it. A couple of years later, my friend Sweetie was performing. Everybody knows Sweetie, right? A few years later, I'm there, and Sweetie says, I want you to meet my friend Hattie, and also known as BRIAN Butterick. I'm like, BRIAN Butterick? Oh my Lord! From when I was 16 years old. So you see, it's funny how life is. You just never know when your path is going to cross with somebody. Ironically enough, there was another person in the audience with me that night, somebody named Geza, who can't be here tonight. He lives in Florida. And Geza said, that person on the stage, Hattie, looks really familiar. Well, it turns out that Geza and Hattie were housemates in San Francisco in the 80s, right? We all talk about the 6 degrees of separation. I'm sure everyone out here sees, as we get older, it's getting closer and closer and closer. So we all started hanging out together, and ironically enough, in the last 4 years, I became really close to Hattie and found out what a genius, a performance artist, a writer, a musician, a Renaissance man. Was Hattie not a Renaissance man? We had our favorite places. I'm not a big fan of the Queen Vic, only because Hattie told me a number of times you really have to watch your purse in here. Somebody tells me that, it makes me a little worried, but we always went to Julius on Thursday nights, all right, and ties, and we did brunches, and I absolutely adored Hattie. I came to see Glamour, Glory, and Gold. I finally said it right. I screw that one up every time. And 3 teens kill 4. For the longest time, I called it 4 teens kill 3. Don't ask me why that is. To see Hattie there at the Whitney was above and beyond. We're right. Here we are, right in the meatpacking district. We all know what happened in the meatpacking district. Horrible, right? But there is Hattie performing with New York coming up in the background and just really, really getting the respect that was so deserved. I have a couple of people that asked me to read tonight. I know we are on a time crunch here. You don't need to tell me. I have some Tina Binet, who's in the hospital, asked that I share this little pyramid story with you. Laura, could you lower this a little? I'm not as tall as I look. You know, I hang out with all these boys with high heels, and everybody thinks I'm tall. I'm not good, thank you. Okay, it's the tambourines. It always is the tambourines. This is from Tina Binet. In the early 90s, while singing my new pink rock song, Hitler's Daughter, High Fascist Model, my high heel flew off my foot across the audience at the pyramid and hit a guy in the head, knocking him off his stool. Okay, Tina exaggerates a little. Afterwards, in the dressing room, I was totally embarrassed until Hattie came in, red stiletto in hand, and said, "I believe this belongs to you, Hitler's daughter." I shyly replied, "Believing it does." She handed it over with a long drag on her cigarette and said, "I can't have you goose-stepping down the catwalks, shouting, 'Heil heels.'" And we became comrades in controversy from then on. So that's from Martina Benet. This is from Geza, who now lives in Florida, who hung out with Hattie all the time. Rest in peace, dear one, and I will miss you dearly. Brian was like a home for me. We met in the late 70s in San Francisco, and by the way, we were constantly in and out of each other's lives. Reconnected for good about 7 years ago. Rest in power, Hattie. Thank you.
Wendy Kaplan with her astounding collection of Knott's tambourines.
Ready, we're from New Jersey.
I travel over the sea and ride the rolling tide. For that's the way it is, that is my fortune. There are many ears to please, many people's love to try. And every day's begun, rising for the moon. There's a heart in every place, there's a tear for each farewell. That's the way it is. Is my fortune. I lure you as the lace that the wayward gypsies sell, sinking of the sun and the rising for the moon. Rising for the moon, the sun has set and it is dawn, but the star, the enchanted tune, is bright as any star. The chorus of the dust regale the evening love, whose end indeed to start, rising for the moon. We travel over the sea and ride the rolling sky, for that's the way it is, that is my fortune. How many hearts there are many hearts, ears to please, many people's hearts to love. Every day has begun, rising for the moon. Rising for the moon, the sun has set and it is dark, but the star of the enchanted tune is bright as any spark. The chorus of the dust regale the evening light. Every day to start rising for the moon.
Let's hear it for Raphael and Eddie Sanchez. Thank you very much. Well, our final speaker is known to lots of you as a fabulous DJ. But he's also the creator and host of Television, a music, pop, and local culture show on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, now in its 22nd season. Yes! Let's hear it for Television. Like so many here, he was a friend of Hattie's for many decades. Please welcome Tennessee.
Wow, thanks for coming out tonight, everybody. I just, man, it's just so bittersweet, you know. Great things don't last forever. That's why they're great things, you know. Great things don't last forever. And I just use this one, yeah. Wow, yeah. So I never met anybody like Brian, Hattie. Never met anybody. I searched far and wide. That's what's so tough about all these people leaving us, is that they're not being replaced by people. People like that really are irreplaceable. They really are. Thank you, Hattie. Thank you. You know, I came to New York in 1987 and I got myself a job. I was working with Anita Sarko and Howie Montauk as a singing waiter at the Lotus Blossom down there in Tribeca, Chinatown. And Anita had brought a karaoke machine from China, and that's the first time gringos had ever seen anything like that, because that was mostly just Asian karaoke bars. People couldn't even know how to pronounce it, but and I was trying to figure out where everything was. I was new to New York, this country's a chicken coop and everything, trying to figure out what was going on. And so I started reading Paper Magazine, and Paper Magazine had a article about the pyramid, and they put the phone number on there. So I started calling that phone number, and every night at 4 a.m., Brian, Hattie, and Bunny, and Sister Dimension, and Billy Beyond, and Taboo would go in there and put the outgoing message on of what the show was going to be for the next night. And I used to call that number like 5 or 6 times a day just to hear all the shenanigans. I would give anything to hear those tapes. That was so. Before YouTube, there was the Pyramid Hotline. Really was. Before Facebook, there was the Pyramid Hotline. And don't forget whispers. It's okay to be gay on Avenue A. Tonight at the dump. You know, so real quickly, I don't want to keep y'all out here too long. I made a top 10 list, because everything now, young people and everything, well, everybody's all about top 10 lists. These are my top 10 favorite things about Hattie Hathaway, Brian Butterick, Loretta B. DeMille. And at number 10, it was Brian's appreciation for the weird, the bizarre, the island of broken toys that nobody wanted to play with. Just the people that acts that were just completely, they couldn't even get on the Gong Show, man. Just completely unbookable. You know, everybody from Lady Hennessy Brown blowing baby powder out of her cooch to Ron Bloodsucker and the Bloodsuckers from Outer Space, busted blood bags and rolling around on the floor, even to where CBGB's was like, y'all can't be doing that shit. Y'all can't be doing that. Brian would book them. I would just be like, okay, all right, here we go. Number 9, he was always fearless. I remember the night of the Tompkins Square Park riot, and I had just got off work at 103. That's when I first met Brian. That's when I first met a lot of y'all. 103 was a diner over here on 6th Street. It's just where all the young people went when all the clubs closed. There were so many clubs there. And it was just endless. And you could go, the price of admission was a cup of coffee and play the jukebox on it. You know, that's where I first met Brian. And so I met him, and I started giving Brian and Happy Pint coffee, and they finally got me a job at the Pyramid. But yeah, when the Tompkins Square Park riot happened, Brian snatched me in off the street and pulled it. And the Pyramid used to have that long piece of wood that they put over the door to lock it, you know, like a medieval castle. You had to lock the door like that, and then go through the you know, the basement and come out of the basement and you know, lock the basement to get out of it, you know. He was fearless like that, and didn't matter, you know, who was in there carrying on. Brian throw him out. He wouldn't have no bullshit. Number 7. Brian really knew how to when to say when, you know, from snatching the drink 18th cocktail out of your hand, to the Coke spoon, to the syringe, to me coming to work on mushrooms to be a busboy and him saying, "Go home." Number 6 was that Brian was a fabulous historian, because there's so much that happened before I got here, and the early history of New York, because, you know, he was from Riverdale, where the Archies are from, and you know, he could tell you, he was friends with Henry Geldzahler, I think I'm saying that man's name right. He worked for Andy Warhol, and he could tell you a lot of stories about that. Told me funny stories about Marsha P. Johnson, you know, so many stories about Marsha. Like, you know, Marsha was just driving him crazy. He was like, I was going to LA, it was in the 70s, and he said I was finally going to get away from Marsha. And Hattie got out there on Sunset Boulevard, and he heard, "Hi, doll." Number 5, he knew how to be like Thelma Ritter and All About Eve and give them the heave-ho. Whether it was, you know, some drunks at the Pyramid raising hell and getting too rowdy and Hattie would throw them out in drag, to even one night at Jackie 60, I recall him pushing David Lee Roth off the stage when they wouldn't get off the stage and leave Jessica Rabbit alone. That was so funny. It was so funny to me. Yeah, and number 4, he was a fabulous traveling companion. Brian and I got to spend the winter of 2014, 2015, and 2016 in LA out there. A couple of schleps from the Lower East Side out there, Hollywood swinging on Hollywood Boulevard. And what great fun we had out there, and telling so many stories. Number 3, a friend to so many. Brian was a friend to so many, and he had that commonality where I literally remember him, you know, there was a really butch like sound man that worked at the Pyramid, and Brian would be sitting there at the bar telling him how to put a pair of shock absorbers on a 74 Camaro, and then 10 minutes later he'd be talking to some young queens. "Well, you know, Hunch, you can go to Lee's Mardi Gras. They have them in a 14 double D." Number 2, he was an amazing political activist and a performance artist. He would combine both of those two things. You know, do political activism and not make it to where, you know, it was a little too preachery. They always kept a wig and some glitter on it. You could laugh, you know. And, that was from everything from Disco Interruptus at the Roxy, where they kicked us out of the Roxy because they made fun of the Catholic Church, to okay, guys, and to when 9/11, he threw his TV out the window on 9/11. I never will forget that. You know, on our darkest day. And my number 1 thing, I'm sorry to run on, guys, but my number 1 thing was, and this is a saying I hope all of you will take down the highway here with you tonight, is, "Hattie, get the mop." People, that commode at the Pyramid would always run over, and Hattie would have to get the mop. People would put syringes and cigarettes and condoms down it, and Hattie would always have to get the mop. And anytime anything was going wrong, Brian would look at me and go, "Oh, Hattie, get the mop." I love you all.
We're going to close with a short video clip. And an enormous thank you to our video curator. In a Black Lips Floyd production. This is it, everyone. Hattie's death scene.